So we got a couple. All right, it's being recorded. Got it. That's my contact information for those people who are new to us. A little background on me. JJ White. I'm originally from New Jersey, so don't hold that against me. I joined the Air Force in '72. Was a C-130 flight engineer. No war stories unless you buy me Guinness. I retired from Pope in '94. I was the chief flight engineer. I spent 2 years at 71st High School setting up and running their computer lab. I was currently a DoD contractor. I work for AMC headquarters, Air Force. And I'm married to a lady named Loretta for 49 years. And 4 words is yes, dear, and I'm sorry. That makes it last longer. My officiating background, I was a North Carolina AAU supervisor of officials for girls. I was a national AAU boys official in basketball. I did some signing for Fayetteville area private schools for a number of years before I turned it over, basically before I started calling college ball. Signer for Fayetteville Parks and Rec youth football, National USC for Southern softball, and I'm currently this SSOA regional supervisor for both boys and girls lacrosse. These are the sports I officiated. I did some NCAA level, Division II, Division III ball, football, 1 year, 2 years of semi-pro stuff. And I did both across girls and boys softball and seven or 8 years in soccer. I think it was 7 years in soccer. So my communication with schools to put everybody at ease regarding the scheduling, officials, or game incidents. I only talk to school administration. I don't talk to the coaches. Okay. Student activities director, like we have in Cumberland County, is the county AD. We have meetings with them monthly, and we have meetings with the school athletic directors. So that's who I talk with as far as schedules or game incidents. Coaches wanting to discuss a game incident with me, they have to go through their AD. Okay, they have to send them an email. They'll send me the email. I pull up the NFHS video if I haven't seen it already. I talk with the officials, and then we go from there. But coaches that do not work through their ADs, and if I need to reply, I go through the principal and the AD. That usually stops it. Rule questions or interpretations or application of a rule, I have no problem talking with coaches. So I don't want it to seem like I don't talk to coaches at all. If there's an issue or something I think the coach needs to be aware of, you might see me show up at the game, and I'll talk with the coach and try to get things straightened out. As far as assigning officials, I use both Arbiter Sports and Dragonfly. Okay. So I will continue to assign officials using Arbiter Sports. All North Carolina officials will get new invites, but if you guys are already in there and been on the Arbiter, that's not a problem. You're not going to get a new invite. Because we have some out-of-state officials. I usually just add them to the contact so I can keep their information for the youth sports. So keeping your blocks updated primarily is Arbiter. Okay. You'll have 72 hours to accept the assignment. After that, 72 hours you usually get removed. It automatically takes you out. But depending on your work schedule, if you need more time, that's not an issue. Just let me know. We'll work out a date where you're going to let me know by, because I know we have some people, they don't get their schedules till Thursday. And for those of you that are aware, that I schedule throughout the whole year, just about before the season is already started. But I published, a couple of weeks at a time, and then by 2 or 3 weeks into the season, the whole season is already published. Okay. No, I have it all scheduled and ready to go before opening day, and I usually start right after we have the state rules clinic. Okay, so it's imperative that you keep your blocks updated in Arbiter. Okay, your administrative requirements completed will be those who have completed all their administrative requirements. I will schedule first. If you haven't done your concussion course, or you haven't paid your registration fee to Chapel Hill, or paid booking fee to me, you're at the bottom of the list. So make sure you get all that stuff done first. Because I have had officials not receive games and want to know why. It's because they didn't have everything completed. And like I said, I've already scheduled the season out. So when they say they want games, and now I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place and saying, okay, who do I take games back away from? So if you get your stuff done early, you get games. And for scrimmages and play days on the women's side, or scrimmages on the boys' side, I will try to maximize the self-assign. Okay? Now, there's going to be situations where you decline a game or you turn it back. Okay? I just need a short comment because it comes up and asks you why. So this is all I need. Spouse. I know the War Department needs you to do something, or you forgot to close out her birth date or something, but she wants to go to dinner. Or if you have kids, family, that's fine. That's all I need to know. I don't need any long reasons. Or you get some people that like to work. Greg, he likes to work late, so he's got to work. And then this one is the catch-all. I messed up. That means you messed up everything above. So that's all I need. Then it's not a problem. Okay? If you have to turn back assignment, same thing. No worries. It happens. Just email, call, or give me a text. You got to receive a reply back from me, and you will also receive a text coming back from Arbiter. If you don't get that text back from Arbiter because I'm on the road, give me a follow up with another phone call. So when I get home, I know that's the first thing I need to do. Okay. But if you know it's a possibility, give me as much heads up as possible, because if you say you think you might need, then call me right away, and then I'll try to get somebody on standby just in case. Okay. Because our association has multi-sport officials. So if I don't grab them and put them on the standby, they're going to go work baseball, softball, or soccer. Okay, your Arbiter profile, we need to have that updated. Okay, make sure you have an emergency contact cell phone number in case something happens to you on the field. We've had that situation, but fortunately her partner was a personal friend already, so he had contact number of her husband. Please share your schedule with you multi-sport officials. Like, I know we got Munters, does soccer. John and Greg also do baseball and softball. Then I can see if you have a game, and then I can call Errol and make those arrangements and not even get you involved. And then I'll call you and say, hey, I need you over here, and Errol's willing to release you. Okay. There you go. If another sport needs you to work, that's not a problem. Let us make that decision. You don't need to get in between them. Okay. If there's a game situation that it's a very competitive game and you want to go work that game, got no problem. I'll make every effort to release you so you can go work that game. But if I'm at the bottom, then that's obviously you accepted the game because we scheduled it so far out. I will try to go to another association to try to pull somebody in. What I don't want you guys to do is get between the rock between two supervisors. Let us work it out, okay? Because you have to realize that as regional supervisors do talk. So if you call up and tell me your grandmother died again for the 10th time, and then we look at the schedule from another supervisor, or because in Dragonfly we can see the games all across the state, and we see you working a game, that's not going to look good for you. So just be honest with supervisors, okay? Because we talk. Okay. Arbiter game. This is for the schools. Private schools do not wish to use Dragonfly. There's a program that like Arbiter game where they can put their schedules in and see what officials are on there, and they can get that free from Arbiter. I think that was the competition between Dragonfly. Schools that don't have it, they can send me an email and I'll put them on it. This is really not for you guys. This is for the schools, because I'm showing this same slide presentation to the ADs. So they know what I'm telling you guys and what expectations, and they should be aware of it as well. Dragonfly is required by the NCHSAA. It allows the schools to pay officials via Dragonfly. So when I publish games Arbiter and you accept games in the Arbiter, we will duplicate that. Either John or myself will duplicate that in Dragonfly and accept it for you. This will allow the school to pay you. Okay, so you don't have to go in there and do it twice. We're going to do that ahead of time, because I have a feeling, this is just me personally, not for dissemination, I have a feeling that Dragonfly is probably going to go away, because I found out it was only a 1-year contract and there's not too many people happy about it. I will use Arbiter to pay the private schools. Fayetteville Academy is the only private school that has Lacrosse. You might see assignments coming out to you from in Dragonfly with John Owens as the guy that published it, because if I'm on the road and he puts it in there, he's just going to publish it for me. So not to worry, he's not making the assignments, because you've already accepted it in Arbiter. Okay. Also, the administrative requirements for the officials' eligibility is tracked in Dragonfly. So the registration, your SSOA registration, the concussion course, state and local clinics, and the assigning fee. Okay. Referee on the game. You get a game, you're the referee. As some of you already know, that I like moving referees around, giving the younger people a chance to referee games, put them under the gun. Hello, Brianna, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I put our young officials up under the gun. So if they're the referee, for you experienced guys, let them be the referee. Because that's how we grow our officials. Okay. Make sure you communicate with your partners. Referees responsible for communicating with the partners to make sure everybody's on the same sheet. Do it at least 24 hours prior to the game. I usually send out my notifications on Sunday for the week. So I send it by email, by text, or by phone. I call them. Voicemails, but only good if you get a reply. If they don't call you back, it's not going to count. Okay? Leaving a message with the daughter, it doesn't count, because she might not pass that message on. Okay, partners, responsibility of you guys, if you're partners, always reply to the referee and your other partners, include everybody. And you don't have to wait on the referee to contact you. If you're sitting there to email and looking at the game, send them an email first if you can. It probably takes a little bit off of them. But if you don't hear from your ref, you definitely have to contact them. Okay? If you're unable to contact a partner, let me know. Because it may be a situation where he's not available, or he went out of town, or something happened to him, he's unable, and we don't know about it yet. And then I'll try to call him and find out he got in an accident, he's in the hospital. So make sure you contact your partners, it's imperative. So here's a rhetorical question. Who's responsible for calling fouls in violation and applying the prescribed penalties? Quick test. There's a lot of people that try to call them, but right now there's only one group of individuals that is responsible for it, and that's the officials. Okay. So when you're officiating a game, has anybody ever heard, hey, that's a foul? Or has anybody never heard that? Same thing with, you never heard this one either. Hey, that's unsportsmanlike. Okay. Unsportsmanlike conduct. We know that's gotten some pretty high level attention now, but here's the definition off of Wikipedia. The highlighted points or emphasis: poor sportsmanship is a foul. It violates the sport's general accepted rules of sportsmanship and participant conduct. And that is the contributing factor to everybody's laying on the shortage and availability of officials. There's a difference between the shortage and availability. Shortage of officials means if I need 25 officials and I only have 20 on my roster, I've got a shortage. If I need 25 officials and I've got 50 on my roster and only 20 of them are willing to work, the other 30 don't want to work, that's availability. So why is my availability low? Why don't they want to work? And they've contributed to some of that problem with sportsmanship. Okay. They want to educate. They want to educate the parents and the spectators. That's not going to help. There's only two groups of individuals that can deal with poor poor sportsmanship during the contest. Okay, that's officials. You have to penalize it when it happens. Penalize all unsporting comments and don't accept I was talking to my team or player, because I've heard that and I've accepted it. Hey, I was talking to my player. Well, okay, it's still unsporting. The other group is game day administrators. Okay, they have to be proactive. Don't wait for officials to stop the game and address the behavior of spectators. Now, I put this in here because this slide presentation I'm going to be showing to the ADs and the coaches. So I want them to know that this is what I'm telling officials, and this is what I'm telling ADs and coaches of my expectations of how the game should be officiated. So they know that if you hit them with an unsporting penalty, they know why, because you've been told to do that. So we have to modify some behavior. So this is what my sense of behavior modification. I do have a little bit of background in this. So basically, you have to find tools to modify the behavior of the players. And the tools that we have of officials is warnings. We can give them a little verbal warning, but you only have to give it to them once. You don't have to keep giving it to them. And then there's fouls, unsporting type fouls. And they only work if you're going to use them. Okay? Unsporting behavior by words or actions. Players, coaches, bench personnel, sideline and end line personnel, and spectators. There's a difference between sideline and end line personnel versus spectators. Sideline and end line personnel, you can have somebody on the sideline that's giving the officials a little bit of grief. So you go to the home coach because the game day administrator is nowhere to be found. And you say, hey, this guy over here is, we need to have him removed and put him back up in the stands. Well, he might tell you, well, he's not with our team. He's with the visiting team. He came in with the visiting team. Well, home coach, he's the game day administrator. I need him back up in the stands. Okay. So that's what a sideline personnel is. We don't call them spectators because it might be a statistician, or it might be somebody down there putting balls up on the outside of the field. But if he starts giving officials a little bit of grief, that little bit of a warning right there, or have them put in the stands. Spectators, we all know where they are. They're on the other side of the fence. Okay. If it's a player, give him a card. Or in the boys' side, you give them a flag. Same thing with the coaches. Bench personnel get a card or a flag also. Let me back up to the coaches, because I know on the boys' side, they want to give that, they call it climbing the ladder. They give the conduct penalty. It's like the half arm, only one arm sticking out for contact. And it's a turnover for the ball if they have it, or it's a 30 seconds for the in-home. I think we need to give that. If you like giving conduct, you need to give it quicker. Bench personnel, card and flag, same thing. And that's also charged to the head coach. Okay, sideline and end personnel, only the coach or the game day administrator will remove them if they need to be removed. Okay, and you don't need to get involved with that as the official. There's spectators and non-game personnel, totally up to the game day administrator or the head coach if we don't have a GDA there. Let me back up to that GDA. Your game day administrator needs to be documented in the stat book, and that's an NCHSAA requirement. I have the penalty report that some of you guys are familiar with. If they don't have a stat book, then put it on the penalty report. Okay, next. Game day administrator. If the game is stopped to address spectator behavior, then I expect the spectator to be removed if it's that bad from the site, and let the coach know that we're not going to start until he's gone. And then if they go up there and get him, and he's on the opposite side, and they take that nice slow walk through the flowers to leave, then you just tell them we're going to wait till he's gone. Because we had that at a game I had once. The other referee had a spectator removed, but he took a nice, slow, leisurely pace to leave. Okay, and the officials, I expect you listed on the game report and the Arbiter if we have had to stop the game to get the situation taken care of. And I will notify the NCHSAA. Okay, there is a code of conduct by the schools. Each student is given one, and each faculty member is given one at the start of every school year. And it specifies acceptable behavior and lists certain behaviors that are not acceptable, okay? And also lists the consequences for those behaviors, okay? I'm sitting at a table because I worked in the high school for 2 years, and I'm looking through this book, and the other administrator's principal, he says, JJ, what are you looking for? I said, I'm looking for that exception. He said, exception for what? I said, exceptions for the way people act during an athletic event at your school. And there are none. So whatever behavior you're going to accept on that field is the same behavior that the principals expect from their players during athletic events. I was asked a question one time by a principal at a high school game during a football game. And he says, JJ, why do officials let coaches on the field? And I just looked at him, I says, why do athletic directors let the coach on the field? I said, probably for the same reason. Nobody wants to address it. So not saying you have to give them a flag, not saying you have to give them a card, but address it. Coach, you need to stay off the field. And you only need to do that once. Misconduct on the girl side, behavior modification. How do we fix it? Officials, repeated major fouls, same or different by a player or team. So if you've got a team committing repetitive cross checks, that's persistent infringement to me, and I expect a card. Single or deliberate foul by the defense in an effort to stop a fast break on our player on ready to go, just like in soccer. That's a card. Okay. Misconduct fouls must be carded. Excessive, rough, or dangerous, unsportsmanlike. And this is in the rule book. Persistent or flagrant violation of the rules. Officials may use either a yellow or red card. This is what I like about the girls lacrosse. You issue a card to one player on one team, that's a warning for everybody on both teams, including the bench area. Okay, so how do we modify that behavior? Ow. Persistent infringement, we need to card it. This is what I used to do. My first opportunity, even if it's borderline, I called it. The second offense, I called it and give a verbal warning to the player. Okay, so the first one, you called it. They know you're not going to put up with it. So you set the tone, but they do it again to see if you let it go again. So now you're going to call it and give them a verbal warning. So that's strike 2. Third time, you give me a yellow card. I went to a game one time and I seen a whole bunch of bruises on the girls' arms as they were doing the stick checks. And I asked them, I said, where'd they get all these bruises? And they said, well, it was from the game they had the day before yesterday. I said, it wasn't down here, was it? It wasn't. They went away, played someplace else. So we need to fourth card, we need to card it and they play down. My expectation is to continue giving them cards and sitting them out. Okay. Out of all the cards that were given out last year, nobody ever called and complained. So as you can tell, persistent infringement is a hot topic for a lot of coaches, but they don't mind it when they let it go. So if you have major fouls, call it. Call it and give a verbal warning. Then on the third time, give a strike. Strike 3, give them a card. I guarantee you they'll stop. And then issue cards from then on. And it applies to players to both teams. Now, use a little common sense here. If you've got a game and in the first half you have to give a card, and then for the rest of that half you don't have nothing going on, and then all of a sudden you have one in the second half, it might not need a card. So I'm not saying you have to give them a card because they've cleaned that game up. Okay, so call it. You can give them the verbal warning, but if it happens, if you felt it needs a card because they're starting to get away again, then give them a card. And the boys, I didn't realize persistent infringement was not defined until I started getting into this last year. But we had plenty of comments about how long games were taken. And that was because everybody's given a slash in the boys game, but everybody's getting 1 minute. So after after a player fouls out, and they foul out after 5 minutes of personal foul time. So they're getting a slash 4 times, and the clock stops when you have a slash. And then you go over and it takes about 2 minutes to report that foul and get the game started back up again. So if you're giving a lot of slashes, it's going to extend the game. So how do we speed up if they don't stop? So flag it the first time, and then start stepping up your penalty time. First one could be a minute, and then if they do it again, you give them 2 minutes. And then after they do it a third time, you give them 2 minutes. Then they're out of the game. So instead of giving everybody getting 4, it's going to make everybody stop and think, well, they're stepping up the penalty time, and they're going to be sitting out. One game I had when I was calling the boys, we fouled out 5 players in the second half because they didn't get the hint. Okay. Oh, I did this twice. Unless I backed up. Arbiter has a game report. The referees are responsible for putting in the game report. You just put the score in, make sure the officials showed up on time. And like I said, if the officials are going to show up late, make sure you call your partners. And notify me as well. And I will call the AD. Or send a text to the AD and let them know you're running late. We've had a lot of officials run late last year because they were coming from one game, going to another school to do another game. And they would tell me, and I'd call the AD up. But what I found interesting was on the officials report, they said everybody showed up on time. If you're running late, just go ahead and put it down who's running late. But I already know the reason. But don't try to cover for anybody. If they're running late, they're running late. We know it. They called me. If they ran late and they don't call me, and then the AD calls me, then I'm going to have a long talk with somebody. Okay, call or text me. Call and text your partners. I had the school wait an hour and a half for officials because they forgot to schedule a game and teams showed up. So they had no problem waiting an hour and a half for the officials to get done with one game and run over to their school to do their game. In the comment section, if anything needs to get my attention, just put it down there. If you give yellow card in the game, just put down the yellow card, the team, and the player's number. Don't need a whole bunch of verbiage. The only time I need verbiage is if you have a red card, ejection, team, player, reason. And I don't need a long history report. If they were fighting, you just put fighting. Okay, flagrant foul, just put down flagrant foul. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to go to the game film. I'm going to watch the game film on the Federation Network. I watch the game film because I know I'm going to get a call from the AD and the coach. Well, not the coach, but I'm going to have to reply back to the coach because I wound up having a conversation with them. And they're going to know why he was ejected or she was ejected. And that's not a problem. So the penalty report, you'll see a penalty report. I'll show you on later on in the slides. There's a penalty report, one for the girls and one for the boys, that the coaches want to keep those now. So the officials, the referee or one of the officials would just take a picture of the game report and they would send it to me. And it has helped me a lot when I have to talk to a coach. Okay. Ejections, red cards. The official who ejected the player files the report. There is a link and a password on the Arbiter dashboard. You do it through Dragonfly. And at the bottom of the Arbiter dashboard, it tells you exactly, there's like 3 steps to go through to fill out the ejection report. And it's real simple. John Owens is going to have a demonstration on Dragonfly, and he can step you through that process as well. Ejections, call me because I'm going to need a heads up. I will pull up the NFHS video and review the game. And sometimes not all information is relayed to an AD. And I'll give you an example of that here in a little bit. There's an ejection policy that the NCHSAA has for fighting, leaving the bench area illegally, flagrant contact. This was added as a result of one of our games last year. Lacrosse illegally hitting or cross-checking in an excessive manner. Because in the boys' game, they're allowed to body check. Obviously in biting, taunting, baiting, spitting, profanity. And when you fill out, if somebody curses, that's all I need to see is profanity in the ejection report. Why was he ejected? Profanity. That's NCHSAA's requirements. Or obscene gestures, disrespectfully addressing or contacting an official, and smoking on the field. So I had a situation. I got an email from a coach. and this is a perfect example of how I don't get all the information. Like I said, I don't talk to coaches. So, but she wanted to send me an email anyway, which she did because they have my contact information. She's stating there was multiple flagrant fouls during the game and there was no calls made. She described in detail a flagrant cross-check on the goalie while she was out of the circle, airborne, trying to catch a pass. And she was flagrantly cross-checked. Okay. And she also suggested the visiting team shouldn't be played lacrosse anymore. And I did not respond to her because it did not go through the AD and she never asked a question. But here's what was not included. Okay. It occurred with 3 seconds left in the first half. There were 2 seasoned multi-sport officials with state championships in different sports on the game. I reviewed the NFHS network video and made a clip of the goalie when the goalie was injured, because I know I might have to use it if I get called by the AD and I go down and talk to him. It showed 0 contact. The player rolled her ankle when she landed. What she didn't know was I was at the game watching it from the sideline, walking up and down the track. And the goalie was her daughter. So I never received a complaint or concern from the AD, so I never responded to it. Okay. Just to let you know some of the situations that get sent up this way. But if a situation arises during your game, please let me know ASAP. Shoot me a text, shoot me an email, or give me a buzz. If you're not sure if I'm going to get a call or not, call me anyway. Let me know you're doing okay. So before I talk to the AD, I'd like time to review the game on the NFHS network or talk to all the officials if or other people if I need to. Okay, the foul count. At a girls' game on one team, this is a situation. They were issued 5 yellow cards. 2 players were DQ'd. The team played down because once they hit that 4th card, they start playing down. Okay, I received a call from the assistant coach whose daughter ended up with a concussion. Like I said, I don't normally talk to coaches, but this coach was also on my list to talk with because he also coached the youth. So he had my number. So he immediately told me that he was not was not complaining about the officials because they were doing their job. They were calling the fouls and they were issuing cards. And that tells me that when I watched the game on the network, there was a lot of foul going on. So there's a lot for the officials to do. They did a great job controlling the game. I received the coach sent me a picture of his daughter, showed me the sent me the medical thing because showed that she had a concussion, and he received a pic of the scorebook showing all the cards that were issued. He felt he didn't know what to do because he felt the other team was targeting his daughter. So obviously I can't do anything about it, but I pointed him to the AD and let the AD talk with the other school's AD. So, but here's what bothered me. One player had 6 major fouls and never received a card. I don't blame the officials for this because there was a lot of fouls in that game. So trying to track the players with those number of fouls, that's why we came up with the table form. We came up with this form. So every statistician at the table is always going to have a friend sitting there with her. So John and I developed this form on the girls' side. So this is the top of the form, and the bottom of the form has it, the same for the visiting team. But they would put the player's number down, and if they committed a major foul, they would just put the foul in there, major foul for sphere or whatever. So if they get to 3 major fouls, and I expect that 3rd block to see a yellow, it should be yellow card. Okay, so at halftime, you go over to the table and you look at this form, you can get a pretty good idea who needs to be watched. Okay, so that's why this form was developed. And we have one for the boys as well. Okay, here's the one for the boys. They would put the penalty and the time he gets released. So we have player 32, he got a slash, he's getting released at 6:42. Because when they start serving their penalty, the coach or the players want to know when's he released. Okay, so now it's a real quick reference for them to see. And if they hit 5 minutes of penalty time, they're disqualified. If they hit a flagrant foul, then they get ejected and just put their name over there. Okay, so this is the situation with the table form came up about with that girls' game, and this is the one on the boys game when we already had the table form and we're experimenting with it. So a player was ejected for a flagrant hit. Okay, I received a message from the AD that the coach disagreed with the ejection. Basically, it was a 225-pound linebacker started playing lacrosse, took out a 125-pound defender from the other team. And the reason why he said that he disagreed with it because he said because the player was so much bigger. So basically, in the boys game, that's an unnecessary hit. Okay, I made the clip from the network. And watching the play, all three refs threw a flag and they immediately got together. And it's the fastest I ever seen three refs discuss a penalty. And they all three agreed to eject within 15, 20 seconds. I said, dang, that was fast. But it was extremely obvious. Okay. So I reviewed the table form. All right. And I informed the AD it was a good ejection. Okay. So when that happens, if something happens at a game, I went to their next home game, okay? The coach and I talked about unnecessary hits. I showed him a pic of the table form from the referee sent me, okay? And I pointed out that he had 16 minutes of penalty time. In the boys game, there's only 4 12-minute quarters. So he played over a quarter, a man down, and sometimes 2, okay? And they lost that game 15-16. Coach says, can I keep this form? Did not realize with all the penalties, even though they might come in for a minute or 2, that total time of playing the man down, they could have prevented some of those scores from their opponents. Okay, so now I have no problem with the referees taking, or any ref take a picture of the form and email it to me or text it to me so I have it. In case there's something that I need to point out to the AD and coach saying, hey, they were trying to keep this game tight and they had 15 penalties, but nobody was helping them. I'm going to use Zoom extensively for our clinics. Okay, John is trying to set up a on-field clinics with Kate Fear and Terry Sanford for both the girls and the boys. And we will advertise that to everybody. And other associations as well. This is not for you guys here. This is for somebody else. I will have a weekly How Goes It meeting. It's not mandatory. So every Sunday at 6 o'clock, once the season starts, if there's a situation you think we need to address or talk about, or that I need to address with ADs, you can log in. It's only going to be about 30 minutes or so. If you don't have anything, you can just listen in, or if you don't want to log in, that's fine. But we're going to try to have all our clinics done before the season starts. And then those will just be on Sundays at 6, will be short. How's it going? Everybody's happy. If there's any issues with the sites, field markings, because that's a emphasis item this year. Personnel on sidelines, if there's a situation we need to have the ADs make sure. Oh, that just reminded me of something. In football, they made sure nobody was on the sidelines anymore that wasn't supposed to be there, because they had an issue with a retired principal or retired coach that got injured. So unless you're part of the game, I don't know if they're letting, because I know they stopped officials from going down on the sidelines and watching the game from the sidelines. I got to check on what they're going to do. That reminded me. If we have any game management issues, we will discuss, and if I have to engage with the ADs, I will. I think the situation we're going to have with the unified fields this year, because they changed the unified fields, they changed the penalty box from 10 yards on either side of the midfield down to 5, and that makes the coach's box a little bigger. And on a unified field, the girls game now has a coaching box, which means they don't get to run down to the end line anymore. But I'm not saying we need to officiate that either, because most of the time they don't say anything to officials that do that. Any issues you feel I need to engage with ADs? Like I said, I'll deal with the coaches. And with the unified field, goalposts have to be wrapped. Okay, questions, comments?
JJ, it's Drix. I did have one question. You said all North Carolina officials are going to be getting new Arbiter invites.
Yeah, ignore that one.
Okay,
Ignore that one. That was in the event of another situation coming to fruition and I had to do this again in another area.
oh, okay, got it.
Because there's people that way out of state that I don't know. But I definitely would give the North Carolina invites out.
Yeah, I just didn't know why you would need to re-invite all the people on your roster. That just, I wrote that down like, I didn't understand that, but.
Yeah, I was supposed to hide that slide, but I didn't.
Okay. I'll never tell.
Okay, that's okay. I messed up with the best of them. Everybody else went to sleep. Has anybody got any questions?
Nope.
Hey, Irvin, how you doing? How's your knee?
It's still healing, but